California is often sold as a dream. Sunlight on the ocean, neon in the city, palm trees swaying in a warm breeze. But some places in California do not feel like a dream at all. They feel like a memory that never faded, a warning that still lingers in the walls. Tonight, we descend into the darkness to uncover the 10 most haunted places in California. If you're drawn to haunted history, chilling legends, and places where people swear the dead still walk, like, comment and subscribe now. Because once we begin, every shadow starts to feel a little closer. Every sound becomes a little harder to ignore. And every story feels a little too real. At number 10, the Great Queen Mary rests in Long Beach like a relic from another era. Once a symbol of luxury, later a vessel of war, she now sits silent against the water. But silence is deceptive. Because on this ship, people still report movement in places no living person should be. There are whispers of footsteps crossing empty decks, children's laughter drifting from sealed areas, heavy knocks from inside locked rooms. The ship's engine room carries one of the darkest legends, where a fatal accident is said to have left behind the presence of a worker who never truly departed. Some who enter say the air changes instantly, thick, metallic, and cold, like the ship is remembering something terrible. The first-class pool is another place where the atmosphere turns strange. Visitors describe reflections that don't match reality, wet footprints appearing where no one has walked, and a sense that something is watching from just beyond the tile and steam. A ship can cross oceans, but some histories sink much deeper than the hull. At number 9 stands the Whaley House in San Diego, a home built on ground already marked by death. Before the house ever rose, the land served as a public gallows. That detail alone seems to have soaked into the soil and never left. Inside, the air carries a heaviness that visitors describe before they even see anything strange. Footsteps echo above empty rooms. Doors swing open without explanation. And in the stillest moments, some claim they hear a child crying somewhere deep in the house. The Whaley family lived through loss there, and many believe the house never stopped holding on to it. One of the most enduring legends is the sighting of a woman in old-fashioned clothing drifting through the rooms with a quiet, sorrowful presence. Others speak of multiple spirits tied to the house's long history of tragedy. In a place like this, even the walls seem to have learned how to mourn. At number 8 is the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, a mansion that feels less built than assembled from guilt and obsession. Sarah Winchester began construction after profound loss, and the house expanded for decades into a maze of hallways, staircases, and rooms that seemed designed to confuse the eye and unsettle the mind. Legend says she believed the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles were following her, and that the endless construction was meant to keep them from finding her. Whether that was fear, grief, or something far stranger, the mansion became a physical expression of unrest. Doors open into walls, stairs lead nowhere, windows overlook other rooms. It is architecture that refuses to behave like architecture. Visitors report sudden chills, disembodied footsteps, and the sensation of passing through a place that is listening back. Some describe the feeling of being followed, as though the mansion itself is breathing behind them. The Winchester House does not merely confuse the living, it seems to remember the dead. At number 7, the St. James Hotel in Cimarron rises from the Old West like a survivor of too many violent nights. It welcomed outlaws, gamblers, lawmen, and drifters, men who brought their grudges in with their boots and left behind blood on the floorboards. One room is said to be especially active, where guests wake to the sensation of someone pacing beside the bed. Others hear thuds in the walls, sudden whispers in the hall, and the sound of doors clicking shut when the corridor is empty. The stories here do not sound polished. They sound worn in, passed down by people who were too shaken to invent them. The building's past is saturated with gunfire, theft, and violent endings. That history clings to the rooms like smoke. In a place where survival once depended on a quick hand and a harder heart, it feels almost natural that something unseen still walks the hallways, refusing to leave the age that created it. At number 6 is the breathtaking Hotel del Coronado, where elegance and tragedy seem to share the same address. The ocean glitters outside, but the most famous story tied to the hotel is anything but beautiful. In the 1890s, Kate Morgan arrived alone and never left alive. Her final days remain wrapped in mystery, and that mystery is what gives the haunting its weight. Guests and staff have reported a woman in black seen near the stairs, in the halls, and close to the beach. Some say her presence is gentle. Others say it is unmistakably sorrowful, like someone still waiting for a life that ended before its time. Unexplained cold spots appear in rooms that should be warm. Lights flicker, doors open and shut with no draft to blame. The hotel remains one of California's grandest landmarks, but beneath its polished beauty lies the echo of a woman whose story seems to repeat itself every night. At number 5, we enter a category of places where the walls were built to hold misery in place. Across California, historic jails and confinement sites carry stories of prisoners who suffered in isolation, men who died behind bars, and spaces where cruelty left a permanent imprint. Reports from these sites are often the same, and that makes them more unsettling. Chains rattling with no source, figures seen through barred windows, cold air spilling from empty cells. Visitors describe hearing voices that seem to come from inside the walls, as though the building itself learned how to speak in pain. There is something uniquely disturbing about a place designed for punishment. The fear there is not theatrical, it is structural. It hangs in the silence between stone and iron, in the places where hope once collapsed. Some buildings hold history, others hold suffering. And suffering has a way of staying behind. At number 4 is the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, a building so infamous its name alone feels like a warning. Built in the 1920s, it became a backdrop for tragedy, disappearance, and some of the city's most disturbing stories. Over the decades, it gained a reputation as a place where bad luck seemed almost alive. Guests have reported unsettling activity in the halls, strange sounds in the night, and the kind of dread that settles in before anything even happens. Some say the elevators feel wrong. Others say the upper floors seem to darken unnaturally, as if the building is swallowing light instead of reflecting it. What makes the Cecil so unsettling is not just what happened there, but how much happened there. Its reputation grew layer by layer, story by story, until the hotel itself became a symbol of urban unease. Even after changes and renovations, people still speak of it as if the darkness never truly moved out. At number 3 lies the old Sacramento Underground, a buried city beneath the city. After repeated fires and floods, Sacramento was rebuilt higher, leaving old streets, basements, and passageways below the modern surface. What was abandoned was not erased, it was entombed. That is what makes the underground so unnerving. The tunnels are quiet, but the silence feels occupied. People report voices with no source, footsteps following from behind, and the sudden appearance of figures in period clothing that vanish when lights turn toward them. It feels less like a tourist site and more like trespassing through a forgotten afterlife. Some legends speak of laborers and shopkeepers who never left their old routines, still moving through the buried city as if business continued above them. Others tell of a woman seen near the edges of the underground, turning a corner and disappearing into brick and shadow. When a city is buried alive, it does not always stay asleep. At number 2 is the Pasadena Playhouse, a historic theater where the lights may go dark, but the stage never truly empties. Theaters are alive with emotion. Every performance leaves something behind: applause, heartbreak, tension, hope. Over time, that residue can feel like a haunting of its own. Actors have reported voices in empty rooms, footsteps crossing the stage when no one is there, and reflections in mirrors that seem to move a second too late. Some say they have felt a presence in the balcony during rehearsals, watching from the dark above, while the seats remained empty below. There is something especially disturbing about a haunted theater, because it turns performance into uncertainty. Was that sound part of the show, or something else entirely? Did someone just move in the wings, or did the darkness blink? The Pasadena Playhouse leaves that question hanging in the air like a line no one dares to finish. At number 1 stands the magnificent Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles, a place of chandeliers, marble, and timeless luxury. But elegance can hide 1,000 secrets, and the Biltmore's reputation suggests that some of those secrets never stayed buried. Guests and staff have described apparitions in formal clothing, whispers in empty halls, and an unmistakable sense of being watched from just beyond the light. The ballroom, the corridors, the old rooms, all of them seem to hold traces of another era, as if the hotel is still hosting guests who never checked out. Some haunted places feel broken. The Biltmore feels preserved. That is what makes it so unsettling. The haunting is not loud or chaotic. It is polished, elegant, and patient. A place where the dead may not rattle the walls, but instead stand quietly in the corners, waiting for the living to notice them. California is full of beauty, but beauty does not erase what came before it. Sometimes the most stunning places are built on the deepest shadows, and sometimes those shadows linger far longer than anyone expects. If this eerie journey through California's haunted history kept you watching until the end, like, comment, and subscribe for more dark stories, ghostly legends, and cinematic countdowns. And if you know a haunted place in California that deserves to be next, leave it in the comments before the night gets any darker.